Hello.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you, Devin?
Good, good. It's been very busy. We've talked in several episodes past in terms of how we manage our day in order to get stuff done while maintaining a high level of energy. And if you heard our previous podcast on energy management versus time management, we did talk about being very intentional about scheduling time within your day where you can switch off, where you
Mhm.
can do nothing. And for a lot of us, that is a challenge to actually do that switch off, whether it be during that 10-minute walk that you have in the middle of your day, whether it be during the weekend, or I think more importantly, when we go on vacations. When we go on vacation and actually take that vacation where we're not um, still tethered to work but through our phones or our laptops or iPads, or at least through our minds, just ever with that ever present anxiety, that stress, that work is going on while we're on vacation. So today we want to do a very quick episode on we'll call it Michelle's quick tips on how to fully disengage it and the power of doing nothing. So what do you have for us, Michelle?
Yes. Okay. So I'm glad that you asked. I will say that I have talked to and surveyed my audience. I have a burnout survey. And so this episode kind of originated from what we're seeing from people. And it's very common to see I can't relax even on
Yeah.
vacation. When I am with my family, I'm thinking about work. I can't shut off my mind. It's interrupting my sleep because I'm in bed and my mind is still racing and turning. And a lot of people are reporting having these even sometimes intrusive thoughts that are coming up for them. And this is an entire we can unpack quite a lot with that. And so I would like to share a few very tangible, actionable things that
Okay.
people can do because we could get into why this happens and how we can really do some work mentally, emotionally with this. But that's not a quick episode. So for today, what I want to do is just give a few things here. So what you had said and what we're seeing reported is especially when I am out of work, when I have turned off my business, my role, my job, I'm
Hmm.
on vacation or I'm trying to enjoy time with my family, I can't switch off. And
Yeah.
so my tip for that is that we have expectations and boundaries on the front end with the people that we are involved in with work. So whether that's your boss, a
Hmm.
client, or all of your clients, your coworkers, whatever it is that you are interfacing with regularly. I know for me, this sometimes goes back to my team that I have that does some work for me. I need to communicate to them. I am on vacation.
Yeah.
I will not be reachable. I will take care of this when I return. Like, whatever it is, we need to be very clear because I have been in the situation before where either I'm not very clear and so people are expecting to reach me, or they're coming to me with a problem that they should go to someone else with in my absence. And if they knew that I wasn't there, they would be able to go to somebody else. Like they would take on that responsibility. But
Yeah.
since I didn't communicate that, they're coming to me with it. And so the boundaries on the front end and the boundaries and the expectations with work, because I have been in that situation as well where my office is calling me and saying handle this, we got to do this. And it ruined my entire vacation because there was a problem with a project. And so the whole vacation was I could not relax. And so a lot of that is on the on like the business side of things or the employer side of things, but it really does set us up to worry or to be concerned or our wheels to be turning because we haven't made the very clear expectation that I am unreachable, pretend I am gone, pretend I am in the middle of nowhere and I have no reception. How would you handle this? And I think
Yeah.
that gives us some of that freedom just built in, where we can then begin to kind of unwind our mind while we are on vacation.
Yeah, and I think it is important that from you make that set that level of expectation with your work. And many of us use email platforms that allow us to put an out of office. I think they all do.
Yeah.
So an out of office. But the challenge there is the only time, for many people, the only time you get the out of office is when that person is already out of the office. So by then it's too late, and now that person's in scramble mode, and you probably got that email on your phone. We'll talk. I'm sure you'll cover that in a second. And so what I always like to do is in my email signature is I have a section that has my contact information, but it has next out of office. And it tells people I'm going to be out of office in June. I know there are 2 weeks in June. I will be unreachable. And so you interact with that person on a regular basis. They see that and they think, oh, shoot, Devin's going to be on vacation. He's going to be at a conference in June. I need to make sure we cover that this week because he's going to be gone next week. So giving people as much of a heads up as possible to help avoid any of those issues. When you're going on vacation, you usually have that planned out so that you're able to convey to your audience, the people you work with, and just give them the heads up, hey, I'm going to be out next week, so let's take care of this week. And I think that goes a long way to alleviating the just that stress that builds up when things go wrong.
Absolutely. And if we take it to the day by day, like day in, day out kind of level, where maybe we don't have a vacation. For a lot of us, vacation happens a couple times a year, if that. And so the day in, day out, like, okay, I am going to enjoy dinner with my husband or dinner with my family. We want to communicate and kind of enforce a boundary. Where I see it, we have a lot of individuals who are feeling very burnt out, but they have never fully committed to enforcing the boundaries that they have, either because they haven't laid them out, identified them, gone ahead and communicated them, or they just have not followed through from their own setup, like from their own situation where they could answer the email. So then they do, and then they set the precedent that, oh, Michelle answers emails at 8 p.m. So I can go ahead and then we start building in the expectation. So to bring it back to the day in, day out, even just setting the boundaries of, I've seen in email signatures where people say, I'm answering my email when it's convenient for me during the time that I have after work. I don't expect you to answer your emails. And that's great from the other person's perspective.
Yeah.
But we also want to have that built in for us. So I always say, the first time you answer that phone call at an inappropriate time, you have opened the door. And so anyways, I don't want to get too off track there, but having the boundaries day in and day out and communicating that releases us from kind of being there at all times for everyone and puts some of the expectation on behavior in the other party's in their control. So I think when I come back to this, I think most people are pretty reasonable. A lot of what's going wrong is that people have not been clear in their communication. So I did want to make that point. The other thing I will give a tip for, I know we've talked about this in previous episodes, but the transitions. So the transition between I am at work, I am fully present, and now I am fully present with my family. This has been a huge one for me because I was notorious for always thinking about work, always thinking about my business. When I had a full-time job, my business was on the side. And so it was like more piled up mentally for me. And so what worked great and still to this day works really well for me is having the transition of this is my working time and then this is my family or fun time. I work that in where I have some time with my dog, I decompress, I go for a long walk. It's my favorite part of the day. And so that is a very marked transition for me to go ahead and say, okay, what I am leaving this energy of this work at my desk. Maybe we clean up the desk. I always write my to-dos for the next day. And that
Okay.
helps me with it's out of my brain onto the paper. I don't have to continue thinking about it, mulling it over because I know I'm going to come back to it. And it's not in the responsibility of my brain to remember to come back to it. So, like I said, you're kind of releasing yourself from taking on all of the pressure and that expectation because then we are continually working on the problem essentially.
Sure. Okay.
And with that, my last tip for today is actually a tip from a therapist that I got probably a decade ago now. So, if you know my story, you know I had very severe anxiety at one point in my life. That is kind of what changed the course of my life into working with people in the mental health space. And there's this concept that I have shared with numerous friends and still come back to sometimes when something is constantly turning in my brain, and that is the concept of a worry window. Have you heard of a worry window,
I
Devin?
have not. Worry
Okay.
window.
Yes, a
Okay.
worry window. So, a lot of times what we see is that people, our brain,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of reasons for this, which I won't go into, but for right now, our brain will keep working on a problem. And that becomes kind of like a pattern. And so, what we're seeing is that people may be working on these problems in their life all day long. And they're doing that because their brain is constantly searching for the answer. So we might think, oh, I have this ache and pain, and this is in a weird spot. I've never had this before. And then we kind of go down the rabbit hole of now I'm searching no, not social media, but I'm going to Dr. Google and I'm
Yeah.
doing these things. And so this is in the middle of, let's say, our work day, and we want to have the time where we are fully engaged in the task at hand versus our mind is somewhere else. And so the worry window is I am writing down my worries on a piece of paper, anything that pops into my brain that I feel like I need to follow the impulse of investigating that. And for people, that's, oh, let me think about that. Let me go over it and turn it over in my
Yeah.
head. We're writing that down, and then we have scheduled some time in. Maybe it's at the end of your work day or uh, whatever you are determining. I'm going to give myself 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. And I am going to allow myself to worry about all of the things that have popped up for me during the course of my day.
Okay.
And I love this one because our brain our brain is desiring to find the solution. It just doesn't exactly know how. So it's just I'm constantly thinking, and that's what we're seeing with people. That's what they're reporting is they're constantly thinking about this problem at work or how
Yeah.
can I make this better at work or what's on my plate. So they're having these kind of like these worries. And so if we say make a list, write it down. You can use that throughout the rest of your day when you're on vacation, when you're having family time. Write it down and feel free to come back to it. There are so many occasions where you don't even want to come back to it. It's
Yeah.
just this intrusive, impulsive thought that comes in. But we want to give we want to have the freedom to be able to come back to that if we need to. A lot of times we won't need to, but we have it written down. And the magical thing about writing things down is that you take them out of your brain and you can come back to them when you need to or when you want to. And the thing that happens with most people when they start putting in time to have a worry window is sometimes they need it, maybe twice a day. And then
Yeah.
as they go, it's like, okay, once a day. And then it really levels off because we're meeting our need to find answers. And we're when we're compressing it to this short period of time, we're
Mhm.
still meeting the need of worrying. That does have some benefit for us, but we're also creating the better patterns of I can allow a thought to come in, I can write it down, and then I can move on. And so I think when people start integrating this into their work and home life, they will see, okay, now I can turn off and be
Yeah.
engaged and be present in this thing that they're currently doing.
I think I love that concept, but I think it does require a lot of discipline, right?
Absolutely.
You have to force yourself to take that worry that may be, top of mind, whether it be a work or personal issue, something that's going on, and you've got to be able to put that, in your window, or something. I think of put it in a jar, put it in a jar, and put that on the shelf. That sort of idea that we're gonna basically force ourselves that yes, we acknowledge that issue exists, but we're not gonna spend any energy working on that or worrying about that right now.
Yes.
And I think for some people that might seem impossible. It might
Mhm.
seem really hard. They're worrying about something that's very present and very real to them. And so it might seem really hard to do, but I just think about, a lot of times when maybe I'll be worrying about a particular thing, but then I'll watch a movie or something. And for those 2 hours, I'm not thinking about that.
Mhm.
And so we have that capacity. We just have to have the discipline to be able to, make that decision, be very intentional in terms of I'm not going to think about this right now, but it'll be there for later. So I love that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes practice. I mean, we are creating new patterns in our brain and
Yeah.
we are interrupting kind of this loop that we have, especially if we have executed on doing the impulse for us. So a thought comes in, we think, "Oh, we have to worry about it right now." But in truth, if we can't take any action other than worry right now, then
Yeah.
we can push that to later. So I do agree that this is something that does take practice, but the brain is a beautiful thing, and neuroplasticity, and we can create new patterns and change, and that is a lot of what will make the long lasting change to this is, well, it has to be a new pattern. You have to
Yeah.
start this new route of doing things and switch, and that will pay you back in dividends in the future so you can be more present.
Yeah.
So
All right.
that is all I have for today. I hope that you take in those very actionable steps and see if you can apply them in your day. Sometimes we think that we don't have some options to do that, but I think all of us can take these very actionable things and make it apply to our life and what we're experiencing.
Great.
All right.
Well, thanks, Michelle.
Absolutely. Yeah. I hope everyone has a great day.
All right. Take care.